Good evening and welcome to Especially for Nutritionists and Herbalists case study number 10. I am so excited to have you with me tonight, and I know that we're only together for a short while, and so I'm going to do everything I can in this next 45 minutes to an hour to make this time really well invested for you. Just before we begin, and just to help me make sure that I've tweaked this program so that it will be of optimal use to you, I would love it if you would just, it's a little launch and we're a tiny group tonight, but that's okay. Um, if you would just take a moment and just a moment. I am just learning how to do this. Okay. Oh, that's not going to work. Okay, sorry. I was hoping to do a survey, but I am unable to because I'm not that technically smart. I guess I need to practice that tomorrow and learn it really well. I would just like to know, and type this into your question box instead, what your background is in holistic wellness. What kind of training do you already have? So if you put training and then list whatever you've got, massage, herbology, nutrition, homeopathy, whatever, and then if you would put a line that says interests, and so things that you'd like to learn about, I'd really appreciate it. Would you take a moment and do that for me, please? Just put down what you've already got training in. And excellent. So Lori has nutrition. Excellent. Welcome, Lori. And anyone else want to weigh in on this one? All right. What would you like to learn about? What are some wellness topics you would like to learn about? Subjects that you'd really like to study deeply, not just kind of gloss over. Do you have any particular interests that you'd like to be in? Herbology and iridology. Oh, Laura, you're a perfect match. I don't know where you live, but we should do lunch together sometime because we are a perfect match because those are things I love to teach. Excellent. So I hope you'll keep hanging out with me. All right, and same to anybody else on the call. Of course, I extend that same welcome to everybody, that I'm just so glad you're here. And I will be catering this primarily to nutritionists, so people who have nutrition training. We might touch a tiny bit on herbology, but not too much. One of the things that I've seen that a lot of holistic practitioners are faced with as challenges, and that they often create as their own challenges, holds them back from reaching their ultimate success. There's a few things. The first one is that they have these lengthy intake forms, microscopic fine print, 3 or 4 or 5 pages, and you're asking things that could be important, but probably aren't important for most of your clients. And guess what? Your clients don't like those forms. They really don't. I'm really going to encourage you to get rid of it. I'm going to show you how to do that tonight. Another challenge you might be facing is that you don't know exactly where to start with your recommendations and setting your therapeutic priorities. So when we have that as a problem, it means you've got a lot of great information in your head. You just don't know how maybe to laser in and say, well, this is our starting point and this is why, so here's what I'm going to teach this person. Sometimes what happens as nutritionists is we feel like we need to justify what we do and how we do it against the medical model. And so a client comes in with a problem and we know lots of stuff, but we think we don't. And so we give them a little bit to do, we send them off, we spend 2 or 3 hours researching just for them, designing this perfect program, and then they come in and we give that program to them. The challenge is that we don't usually get paid for those 2 or 3 hours. Unless you're charging like $500 for a session, you're not probably getting paid for your homework and program development time. That's not a smart way to do business. I don't know very many businesses that succeed by giving away 2/3 to 3/4 of their time for free. And the other problem that comes up as a result of doing extra research and program development outside of paid hours is you've spent all this time, you know all this stuff, and it's such good stuff that when your client comes back in, you fire hose them, you spray them with 700 psi on that water pressure, giving them everything that you've learned, and it's way more than they need and it's way above their head. And so they either don't come back because they're so overwhelmed that there's no way they could do everything you've just taught them, or they did understand it, they've got everything they need, they don't need to come back, they're fine for the rest of their lives. Those are some problems that we tend to have as holistic practitioners and especially as nutritionists. So how do I know that? Guilty. I know that because I've been there myself. I've done the 2 and 3 and 4 hour research sessions to put together this beautiful program. And then sometimes the client doesn't even come back for the second appointment. Now, I learned a lot. That's great, but it's not a really good use of my time to spend that much time on a program. And the other way I know this is I've interviewed a lot of holistic practitioners, and I hear the same concerns from every one of them, that they invest so much time and so much emotion and so much love into each of their clients, and the clients just don't get it and they don't come back. So we need to deal with that. I've also interviewed a lot of clients. I've got a lot of clients myself, right? So I've interviewed a lot of clients and I've found that they really don't like those questionnaires. They really don't like being rushed out of the office in less than 15 minutes. They really want to have some time with their practitioner. So who am I, and what gives me the right to share what I want to share with you? Well, my name is Judith Cobb. That's me. Not the best picture in the world, kind of not in focus, but hey, it's what we've got for the moment. I've been a holistic health coach since 1981. Now, I don't know if that makes any of you think I'm old. Hopefully it just makes you think I've got good experience. I've been a master herbalist since 1983. I've been a nutritional consulting practitioner since 1994, finished my nutrition training in 1993, and a natural nutrition clinical practitioner, so a different organization, since 2016. I have been a certified iridologist since 1993 and practiced iridology for many years before that. I should rephrase that. I've been a certified iridologist for a lot longer than that, but the certificate that means the most to me I got in 1993. That's with my all-time favorite iridology instructor. We're going to talk about him maybe a little bit tonight. And I've been I got certified as an iridology instructor in 2016. Can I make quick poll off screen? I thought I did. Because I've actually shut the whole thing down. So is the quick poll still showing up? That's all you see. Oh, I am so sorry. Okay, like I said, I was just learning how to do quick polls. Let me see if I can fix that. I'm sure I can. It's just a matter of, am I that smart tonight? Oh dear, oh dear. Where would it be? Hmm. Oh dang. There we go. But it says polls aren't even. Okay, let me bring that back here. Oh, there we go. Oh, excellent. Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much for letting me know that that was a problem. Did that fix it? Did that take it away? Ah, thank you so much for letting me know that. Thank you. Appreciate that. You know, a good teacher is only as good as the students, and the students keep the teacher in line, right? I got lots of stuff in my head, and working the sidebar on my webinars is probably not the strongest suit in my deck. So thank you for letting me know that that was a problem. So I have been a teacher of wellness professionals since 1985. I'm a wife of one, a mom of 7, and a grandma of 7. So my life is full and busy, and I still love teaching, as you will soon find. And so my goal tonight is to save you some of the time and the money and the frustration and the discouragement of making the mistakes that I made when I was younger in my business. And you know, I love mentoring, so that's a part of why I teach as well. And we all make these mistakes. If no one tells us to not make these mistakes, we all do. And I see it over and over again. So tonight I want to introduce you to something that is not a new piece of technology, and it's not a piece of equipment that you need to buy. It's just a new way of doing things. And I'll just make sure that's clear. Okay. I'm going to start teaching you tonight how to eliminate your intake forms, except for your waiver and release forms. Now, you have to have the waiver and release forms. You just simply do. Without it, you can be in some major legal trouble. So always have your client sign a waiver and release form. Critical. I'm going to start teaching you how to start creating rapport from the moment you start the consultation, instead of starting out with you looking down to read that awful intake form. Right? You don't make rapport with a person by looking somewhere else. Isn't that the problem we've got now with cell phones and things like that, is no one is looking anybody in the face anymore. We're so busy looking down, we don't pay attention to the people we're sitting with. So when we're doing what I'm going to teach you, it's about creating that rapport and really learning how to get inside the person really quickly so you can really hone in on what they need. And I'm also going to show you tonight how to do a core assessment in less than 5 minutes, how to know the right questions to ask your client so you're not wasting time on questions that are irrelevant, how to prioritize what needs to be dealt with first, right? Because every problem your client brings in is not of equal importance. And so many times, if you can find the center, the core, the base that's causing everything, so many of the other problems will take care of themselves. And I want to begin showing you how to create therapeutic priorities sequence for future consultations. Because the goal here is to create clients that want to come back time and time again, because they love how you work and they love the results you help them get. So, does that sound too good to be true? If you think that sounds too good to be true, raise your hand. So you guys have got high hopes. This is great. Love it, love it, love it. All right. Excellent. So here we go. So what do you need to get started to do this? Well, you're going to need about $35 worth of equipment that you can buy at Target or Walmart or stamp collecting shops. So seriously, the only high-tech thing you need to know how to do once you're set up with the beginning type of equipment is change a battery. What you're going to need to start out with is a good magnifier of some kind, preferably nothing stronger than a 5x. 4 to 5x is a good strength, and a good pen light. Or you can use a stamp collector's magnifying light, because it's about a 5x and it's got a built-in light. Or you can get something a little more high-test like this one, which is more designed for doing iridology. But any of these will work. And so that's all you need to be concerned about right now, is get your hands on some gear like that. And I'd probably just say do this, the centerpiece with the pen light and the magnifying glass, because it's really easy to get your hands on. So I want to then introduce you to the wonderful world of iris assessment, which is also known as iridology. And if you already know something about iridology, and I recognize a couple of names here who are very proficient iridologists, you may know that there are also fancy, expensive, high-tech cameras that you can use for taking photos like this. And that's what you're looking at here. This is a special flash. And yes, I've got one, and yes, I use it on every client that comes in, but it's not where I started, and it's not where any of us started. So I don't want any of you thinking that in order to do iridology well, you have to go and spend $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 to buy a camera. You don't. Just start with that magnifying glass and a pen light. When you know what to look for in someone's eyes, you can begin to understand their health story and a bit about their personality even. So with iridology, you will never diagnose and you will never prescribe, but you will assess and you will educate. You will understand what specific questions to ask to get the deeper kinds of information that you need to get from your clients to allow you to help them in the most powerful ways possible. You won't be wasting time on irrelevant questions that have absolutely no value for your client, and you will be better able to lead your people to improved health. And that's what we all want as practitioners, right? We all really are in this because we want to see people achieve tremendous, wonderful, positive changes in their health and in their life. So the irides, I-R-I-D-E-S, is the correct plural for the word iris when we're talking about eyeballs. The irides are genetic indicators. That doesn't mean they can't change or that they don't change. It does mean the changes you'll see over time in someone's irides are genetically programmed. Just like your hair color changing with age is genetically programmed, your eyes will have things come up and go down as a part of genetic programming. And you can control it somewhat with supplements, so you can control if you go gray early or later a little bit by using the right supplements. The same is true of your irides. Now, I know this because I've been in this industry for 35 years. I've got photos of my eyes from way, way, way back at the very beginning when I went to see a practitioner, and I've got photos from just a few years ago. And with the thousands upon thousands of dollars of herbs I've swallowed, and the excellent diet that I strive to maintain all of the time, and my active lifestyle that keeps my body fit and strong, my eyes haven't changed a speck, at least not my irises. So we don't do health work to change what the irises look like. The irises show us how the body is genetically put together. Integrated iridology includes the study of the iris, of course, and the study of the sclera, which is the white of the eye. We're going to touch on that just a tiny bit tonight as well. When you start a consultation, and I want you to type this in the chat box if you would please, what is the information you get from your client very first? They come into your space, what do you ask them right off the top? I'll give you just a minute or two to get your lightning fingers going to type that into the chat box for me. All right. Okay, right. So typically, as a practitioner, you want to know, besides their name, of course, you want to know their gender, their age, their weight, and probably their height as well. You want to have that basic idea of whether they are in somewhat decent shape. And so that's where I start too. That's the first information that I want from them, because that alone is going to give me ideas of what I want to be looking for when I look at their eyes. And then, do you ask what their main concern is? What would they like your help with? I do. I bet you do too. And so after I found out what's on their shopping list, then I need to know, have they seen a doctor about these concerns? And was there a medical diagnosis, and are they on any medications? Now that's really important as holistic practitioners. Do you agree with me on that one? Raise your hand if you agree that we do need to know if our clients have a diagnosis and if they are on medications. Yeah, right? Because things that we can do naturally can cause problems with medication, so we've got to be aware of that. We should all have really good drug reference books on our desks so we can look things up. So this client that we're looking at came to me, and she was concerned about persistent recurring migraines and allergies. She'd had a diagnosis from the doctor of migraines and allergies. Now that doesn't take a rocket scientist to come up with that, does it? And that's not meant to diss any doctors here, but the fact of the matter is people know if they've got migraines and people know if they've got allergies. She had a couple of medications. One of them was Maxalt PRD, which is for the migraine pain, but she was also on the birth control pill. Now, as we work through her case, I'm going to ask you to be writing things down to see if you see any red flags here. So as I sat there, got that little bit of basic information from her, then I picked up my magnifying glass and my pen light, and I asked for permission to look at her left eye first. Now, we always just start with the left eye. Don't ask me why. It's just protocol. We just start with the left eye. And I make notes of what jumps out at me. And once I've made those little point form notes, usually in the margin of the page, I will ask for permission to look at the right eye. Remember, she's facing us, so her nose is right here. So this is her right eye, this is her left eye. And I'm looking to see if there's any markings different from what I saw in the left eye. And if I see anything different, I write it down. So here's what I saw in that first just minute of looking. This is that base analysis, that quick assessment I was telling you about. This is what I saw. She has hazel-colored irides. That's not a big surprise, but it tells us a lot about her. I'm going to teach you what that means as we go through tonight. She has a concentration of a bit of a brown color hugging the pupil in both eyes. She has rusty brown flecks in her eyes. So you might want to be writing these down because as we go through them, I'm going to teach you about them. There's an orange zone, if you will, just outside of some of the brown, but before we get to the kind of the green. So an orange edge around the central brown. She has wrinkles in her eyes. Now, you know, when we see wrinkles, we'll talk more about wrinkles in a moment, but she's got wrinkles in her irides. So you can see those quite clearly here. Quite a handsome set of wrinkles, I must admit. She has a leaf shape sitting in her right iris at about 47 minutes and another one in the left iris at about 15 minutes. That looks suspicious. Not in a necessarily bad way. It's just interesting that it's so symmetrical. It'll make sense when we explain it. And she has this defined edge to her iris over here, where it's an entirely different color and it's moving into the dark gray shades. Interesting. And when we look up here, we can see that there are just brown flecks spattered. Now they're different texture and consistency than these flecks. So we've got these little flecks up here, and up here it's like they're concentrated in these stripes. All right, now let's work through these and see what we've got here. Oops, I just flipped my notes too fast. That's not a good thing. Sorry, just let me catch myself up with myself here. There we go. Okay, so let's go back to the top of the list. The first thing that we noticed was she has hazel eyes. In iridology, we are going to call that biliary. Now, when you think of biliary, you might have your brain working in a direction that says, well, isn't that kind of like bilious, like bile, like gallbladder, like liver? And if you're thinking that direction, you are totally right. When we have an eye that's not all brown and it's not blue, that's the biliary constitution. We can still see some of the fibers, the threads in the eye, so that makes it biliary. So when we see a biliary constitution, we want to start asking questions. So we want to ask things like, do you have a history of liver issues? Now, some people might know that they have a history of liver issues. Most people haven't the faintest clue what that could look like. So you need to dive a little deeper. You say, well, if you eat something really fatty, does it upset your stomach, or do you end up with greasy bowel movements? Do you find that you get gassy with eating too many carbs, that you bloat up and you don't feel good when you eat too many carbohydrates? Do you have itchy skin? Do you have allergies? Well, we already know she does. She told us at the very beginning. Do you have anemia? Have you ever had anemia? And so you want to write down her questions, her answers to all of those questions, because it's going to start painting a picture for you. The next thing we noticed was this brown towards the center. Now, in iridology, this has a long name. It's called a central. That makes sense, right? It's at the middle of the eye. Hetero, which means different. Chromia, color. So the central heterochromia, the center is a different color from the body of the eye. So as we see this, and we see that it is truly a central heterochromia, this is the digestive and nutritive zone. So stomach, small intestines, large intestines. So we want to ask about stomach. How does your stomach feel? Are there foods that upset it easily? Can you eat anything you want? Are you prone to stomach cramping? And make sure they understand stomach is an organ, and we're talking about that organ. We're not talking about abdomen or gut. We're talking about stomach specifically. Then when we've got those answers, any reflux perhaps, burping, belching, bloating, then we're going to ask about the small intestines, any cramping, any uneasiness, too much gurgling, anything going on there, any bloating lower down in the abdomen. We're going to ask about bowel issues when we see this central heterochromia. We're going to ask how many times a day does she have a bowel movement? What is the consistency? Does she ever have constipation or diarrhea? Diarrhea being either liquid bowel movements or more than 5 or 6 bowel movements a day. And again, we want to ask, do you pass a lot of gas? Because that's going to teach us more about this digestive system. And so far, we've only asked questions that relate to things that we see in her irides. Then we had brown pigments. These brown pigments, whenever you see brown anywhere in an eye, even if it's a brown eye, brown always means the liver is a question mark, that there could be something going on with the liver. And so when we see this kind of brown pigment, these little brown birthmarky kind of spots sitting in the eye, again, we ask any history of liver issues. And if we hadn't asked that previously, we would be breaking it down to the allergies, the itchy skin, the problems digesting fats. We want to really get to know her well. These freckles can be an indication that the liver may be struggling again. And your liver does over 500 different things. Now, this boggles my mind because when I was in high school, okay, that was a century ago. When I was in high school, they knew 50 things that the liver did. 50, 50. That was it, 50, which still sounded pretty busy to me. Then about 25 years ago, which yes was many, many years after university, I did a refresher course. I went back to university just to do a biology and an anatomy and physiology course. And in that course, we learned that the liver does over 500 different things. Man, the liver sure got busy in that 20 or so years, didn't it? And so things that the liver is involved with can be anything from things like storing iron. Your liver is where you store iron for your blood. You make cholesterol in your liver, and cholesterol is not a bad word. Just the wrong balance of it is. Your liver is really involved in immune functions. 10% of its mass is dedicated to immunology. And of course, we all know that the liver detoxifies things that we don't need and that our body doesn't require anymore. We may need to ask about each of those categories to figure out what's going on here. We mentioned an orange edge to things here. So we've got this orange edge to the central heterochromia. Whenever you see orange in an eye, you want to be thinking about pancreas issues. It's an indication that the blood sugars may not be stable. And so we need to take a step back and ask them, because most people don't know what their pancreas does, right? Unless they're diabetic and they're on insulin, or they're on the type 2 diabetic and they're on glucophage, or they're extreme hypoglycemics. The rest of the world just kind of knows, well, doesn't pancreas make insulin? And that's about it. So you may have to drill deeper. How is your energy through the day? Is it stable, or is it a bit of a roller coaster ride? Is there a time in the day when you tend to get sleepier and a little more lethargic? Oh yeah, 2 o'clock every afternoon. Could just put my head down on my desk and be gone for 30 minutes. All right, what do you usually eat for lunch? We usually just go down to the cafe down in the basement of our building, and yeah, I grab a salad and a sandwich of some kind, and a pastry for dessert, and a cup of coffee with, oh, what do you put in your coffee? Oh, 2 cream, 3 sugar. All righty. And we're wondering why you're going brain dead at 2 o'clock. It's probably the pancreas and the blood sugar balance, right? So we need to be asking about those kinds of things. So I'd like you to type up in the chat box, What are some of the things that you would suggest for stabilizing the pancreas, for stabilizing the blood sugars? What kinds of foods would you recommend that they focus on? Or maybe what kinds of foods would you tell them to steer clear of? How do you support the pancreas with your nutrition? You've all got nutrition training because you said so. I'd like to know, what would you tell someone with unstable blood sugars? Just go ahead and type it in that chat box. Give you about another 20 or 30 seconds to put something in there. Eat lightly in the morning, maybe eat fruit. Okay, that might be one way to approach it. Thank you for sharing that. Appreciate it. You're a quiet group tonight. Oh, you're so quiet. It's like you're shy. No one can see you. It's okay, I promise. You can say whatever you want, and if it's really off the wall, I just won't repeat it. No one will know you ever said it. Okay, so yeah, the thing that I really like to get these people doing is focusing on their protein, cutting out the simple carbs and building their protein, because I find that really does help to stabilize them as well. All right, so we talked a little bit about, we saw wrinkles in the eyeballs. Well, when we see wrinkles in the forehead, we call them worry lines, right? When we see wrinkles in the eyeballs, we can kind of think of them like worry lines, just the same. So when we see these, we want to ask her, where and how does she feel stress? So does she store her stress in her shoulders? Could that shoulder stress be something that maybe is triggering a migraine? It's impeding circulation to the brain and affecting her migraines. Is she a perfectionist? Does she love to-do lists? Does she have lists of her lists? That is so common with these people with these contraction rings, or these contraction furrows rather. And is she a worrier? Does she stew and fret about things that she can't possibly change? Those are all the kinds of things that we associate, the personality traits we associate with someone who has these contraction furrows in their eye. So what do we recommend for stress? Well, we likely want to get them to maybe take a few minutes to slow down in the day. Maybe we want to get them to journal. I'll tell you, with these kind of people, it's pretty much a dead giveaway that yoga will kill them until they get used to it. They'll start out initially just hating it because it moves so slowly. But once they get used to it, they really get into it and they could really appreciate this little hour and a half rest that they're getting from all the noise and nonsense of the world. Then we commented on this matching set of lacuna. Lacuna is the plural, and it just means a little walled off section. Now, when we see it sitting in these areas specifically, so 15 minutes in the left eye and about 45 to 47 minutes in the right eye, this is in the heart zone. And so we want to ask if she has any knowledge of any heart issues of her own, and is there a family history of any heart issues? Now, I'm not entirely panicky about this set of markings because the color inside is an indicator as to whether I need to worry or not. When the color inside is about the same as the color outside, it's not much of a big deal. When it's a little darker like this, it means it's a little less reactive. So that's a little more of a concern. So we just want to be aware of that. And if there is a family history of heart issues, we maybe want to be doing some preventive work with her, particularly with her foods and her lifestyle. We may not even be talking about this new haze, that's something else, but the fact that this part of the iris is a dark gray color. This is a scrofrim, and the scrofrim correlates to the skin zone. So it tells us about the skin's genetic program. When we see a scrofrim like this, we want to ask once. We know that it's the third kidney, right? And so if the skin is saying, I don't want to do my job, that means that excess acid is going to be pushed into the kidneys, and the kidneys are going to have to do double duty. So we want to make sure the skin is staying healthy so that it takes the load off the kidneys the way it is supposed to. Then we mentioned this uneven brown color, these little flecks of rust up here. I hope you're taking really good notes, because this stuff is so important. Everything that we've talked about, you can start using with clients. The very next hazel-eyed client you see, you've got it. You've got it. You've totally rocked it, right? So these uneven brown flecks, and I hope you can see what I'm talking about. Up here, it looks like little dots of brown, and over here it looks like someone just flicked and splattered paint on it. We call that ferrum chromatose. Now, ferrum chromatose is another indication that there may be liver issues. Are you seeing a recurring theme with this client? And in particular, the thing that we see most often out of balance when we see ferrum chromatose is that this person has a challenge with anemia. Now, there's lots of different ways to have anemia. One of them is there's not enough iron in the diet, so how are you going to build red blood cells, right? The next one is there's plenty of iron, but it's just not being absorbed well. The next one is there's lots of iron, it's being absorbed well, and it's being put into storage, but it's not being released for use. And so we would need to do some asking and some questioning and see if there'd been any tests done to figure out what's going on here, to know a little bit about what way we wanted to go. But I would bet in this case that it goes right back to the stomach not being able to digest foods properly, so that she can't even get the iron out of her food if she has an anemia situation. Oh, right. I was supposed to take that message out. That was for me. So this is an uncropped iris photo. And I wanted to put this in to show you the sclera right there. So we've talked a bit about some of what the irides can show us, but the sclera shows us stuff too. So where the irides show us how the body is genetically put together, the sclera shows us what is dynamically happening in the body at this point in time. So I like to use the iris to give me the long-term perspective of what I want to do. Here is the eating program that I'd like you to follow for pretty much the rest of your life. Right? That's the iris. Then the sclera is, these are the supplements, and these are a few little tweaks I want to do with your food to bring you into a different balance to deal with what I'm seeing in the sclera. So the blood vessels in the sclera tell us, all of these blood vessels, lots of activity in here, they tell us which parts of the body are struggling under a toxic load or are congested or inflamed. They also show us if a person is prone to allergies. And so when we see specific scleral markings, it gives us more information that leads us to more questions to ask. So again, with iridology and sclerology, they never give us a disease name. They just tell us where things are out of balance, and they tell us what questions we need to be asking. So I'm hoping you wrote down those 8 nurture points that we started with at the very beginning. And did you see a common thread there? Was there something that kept coming up in different forms over and over and over again? If you heard a common thread, I want you to type it in for me. I want to see how well you were listening. This is your pop quiz. It's just one word. There was some stomach. There was something that was even more prevalent than that, Lori. Good for you for getting stomach. Liver. Yeah, Lori, good job. Good job. You did hear it. Excellent. That's super. So liver kept coming up over and over again. Now, you already know with your nutrition training that the liver is key in allergies because your liver produces antihistamines. And if your liver's not producing antihistamines, it cannot squash histamine reactions that happen when we have allergic reactions. You probably also know from traditional Chinese medicine that the liver is almost always seen as the root of a migraine headache. So we don't have time to go into all the details of everything I did with this client, and everything that I took her through for the first 6 months of her program and why I made those recommendations, but I'm going to let you in on a little secret before we go any further, that in January I'm going to be starting to teach a course again. I'm halfway through one round of it right now that will teach you how to do iridology and sclerology and integrate them with nutrition and herbology. That course is called The Confident Nutritionist Integrated Constitutional Iridology. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we go for the rest of this evening here. So back to this set of eyes. What would your first 3 recommendations be for this client? What would you be suggesting to them? And then I'll tell you the first couple of things that I did with her. And whether it's all nutrition or if you've got some herbology background or some homeopathy, it doesn't matter. I'd like to know, what would you suggest? Hoping you've got your lightning fingers going. Yeah, maybe a liver cleanse. Yeah, good suggestion, Lori. We certainly do need to get into that. And Ton just says liver balance. Yeah, absolutely. Got to do something with that liver. Good for you. Those are great suggestions. We need to be going that direction. Absolutely. So what I did was I did go to the liver, just like you would have, and I gave her a herbal combination from Nature's Sunshine Products that here in Canada is called Live GD. I think in the States it might still be called Liver Guard, but I could be wrong there. I'll need to look that up. I also suggested that she start including more of the liver supporting foods like the leafy greens and beets, because those are all good for the liver. Then, as Lori suggested, we might want to go into the stomach a little bit. So I did. I gave her some digestive enzymes from Nature's Sunshine, and that in the US is called food enzymes, I believe. Now, just as a side note, a lot of nutritionists and herbalists do have a favorite product line, and mine is Nature's Sunshine Products. Having said that, if you have a favorite product line that you know well, then you can easily make strong recommendations using your products once you understand the client's physiology, right? That's what this is all about. It's about understanding your client and understanding the tools you have so you can make them work well together. The last thing I recommended for her was to cut out the coffee, because coffee is so hard on the stomach and the liver that it was doing her absolutely no favors whatsoever. Now, I kept my recommendations just that simple for this client because she carries a lot of stress. She's an actress, but she does some acting in local professional theater, but she also has her own business where she goes into schools and runs sort of the artist in residence program. So she's got a lot of stress going on. And I knew that if I asked her to do too many things, she absolutely would not be able to do it. So we gave her just a few little things that I knew she could implement so that when she came in a month later, she could report she had been successful. She felt good that she had stuck to it. She felt good that she was having fewer migraines just with those few simple changes. And so then I asked her if she noticed any other symptoms, because sometimes when the major symptom starts to subside and it's getting taken care of, other things become more visible. And so with what she said and with notes that I had from our first appointment, I was able to then take those first notes where I'd figured out, well, we probably want to do this in appointment 2 and that in appointment 3 and that in appointment 4 and so on down through appointment 6. I was able to modify that and tweak it so it matched what she needed even more closely. So we did end up working on her liver and her stomach, of course, her stress coping and her nerves. That was important. We did a little bit of support for her heart. and her blood and her skin. We did it for a full 6 months, seeing her once a month, and now she only comes in once or twice a year, more as prevention because she's got things pretty much under control. She almost never has migraine headaches, which is very exciting for everybody in her life. And when she does have a migraine, she always can look back and find out what the trigger was because she knows what her triggers are, and she knows when she's not been obedient to what her body needs. So when you understand the iris and the sclera, and you've seen demonstrations of this tonight, you can integrate all of your nutrition knowledge. You can pick and choose the pieces that are important for your client. You can integrate your herbal knowledge. And so I do that all the time. I pull in the nutrition and the herbology. I find it gives me an even stronger way of working with people, although there's no problem with you working just with nutrition or just with herbs. You can integrate all of your lifestyle knowledge. You've got training, you've got life experience, and that also counts for a lot when you're coaching people. You can prioritize which pieces of education and homework to share with your clients today, in the next session, and the session after that. And when you've got that priority sequence, it keeps you from overwhelming your clients. You can easily create those bite-sized, doable pieces of homework for your clients that will help them to be very, very successful instead of overwhelmed and frustrated because they can't be as perfect as they want to be. So integrating your iridology with your nutrition and or herbology and lifestyle into the assessment and recommendation process will help you to get rid of those stinking long intake forms. Seriously, when my clients come into the office, I give them a release form. I have 2 or 3 more pages of questions that are often important, but I don't make them fill them in. As I'm doing that initial assessment, I'm flipping my pages around and putting notes in the right places, plus doing my iris assessment with the notes in the margin kind of thing. But we don't do the lengthy intake forms. It just isn't necessary. It'll help you to know exactly which problem to address first and what the best recommendations are. You can laser in and do it right the first time. It will help you to significantly reduce doing research and program design outside of client time. Now, it doesn't say that we're not supposed to take classes and continue to learn and continue to build to help our clients. It just means that we now stop doing so much of the research for one client so that we are taking courses and building a stronger base that will serve more of our clients well. It'll help us to stop overwhelming our clients with too much information while encouraging them to become long-term repeat clients. That's the backbone of a business, right? All of the research tells us that the most expensive client to find is the new client. It costs far less money to retain a client and keep them satisfied than it costs to advertise to get a new client. So anything you can do to turn that client into a repeat client and into a raving client so they do your advertising, that's a good thing. And last but not least, learning how to integrate iridology with all of the rest of your skills will make you look incredibly smart, even more smart than you already look, as you ask client-specific questions and create programs right in your sessions. Now, if you've loved that little sneak peek, there's going to be a little bit more iridology happening before we're done, but if you've loved that and you're thinking, yeah, so how do I get this? How do I learn it? The course that I've got coming up, Confident Nutritionist Integrated Constitutional Iridology, is starting on January 11th. And registration is open today. It just opened. And so that's pretty exciting stuff because, and that's the website you go to register, iridology.education/confident nutritionist. Now stay with me while we finish up a few things here. So what are you going to learn in this course? You're going to learn how to do a base assessment in 5 minutes or less without lengthy intake paperwork, just like we did here. Looking at those eyes, you saw how quickly we could come up with those 8 indicators It didn't even take 5 minutes. That's the foundation for doing your intake interview. You will also learn how to only ask questions that are relevant to your client's needs. You don't need to waste time on things that are just not important. You will learn how to prioritize the problems your client needs help with. That is so important. Start with the most important piece first. You will learn how to connect what you know about nutrition and or herbology to what you discover using iridology. And as you get more and more proficient and maybe you've gotten to appointment 5 with a person and you're thinking, where do we go now? There's nothing stopping you from doing another iris assessment to see if there's anything new that catches your attention now that you've taken care of some of the big stuff that jumped out at you right away. How will you benefit? Well, you'll be able to eliminate those lengthy intake questionnaires. You will be able to develop rapport within minutes. Your clients will feel like you're connecting because you're speaking exactly to their problems. You will be more precise in your client work. You'll be able to design food and supplement programs right in your client sessions. You will be able to create therapeutic sequences that will help your clients, be more successful and keep them coming back to continue their wellness journey. And you will eliminate almost all of your unpaid homework time. Now, just imagine if you did all of that, you got rid of the extra paperwork, you had people knowing you, liking you, and trusting you from within 5 or 10 minutes of starting the appointment. You were lasering in on what they needed. You were designing those programs right on the spot so they were going home with the right homework the first time. You knew where you were going after this appointment, so you stayed organized and you stayed on top of it, and you could then touch base with them between appointments to make sure that they're doing their homework. Just a quick email, checking in, just making sure that that homework's going well. Any questions or concerns, shoot me an email, right? And with eliminating the unpaid homework time, what would you do with the free time? Would you see more clients? Would you spend more time with your family? Do you have a hobby that you'd like to take up? So what you will learn is beginning to advanced iridology and sclerology at a level that will prepare you for IPA certification if you choose to do the IPA certification. IPA is the International Iridology Practitioner Association. This is the largest governing board is maybe the wrong word, the largest iridology association in North America, and they are now international worldwide. There is an additional fee to take that exam, but we'll talk about that later. You will also learn basic nutrition and basic herbology as they relate to iridology. So I just need to be clear here. I'm not actually teaching nutrition and herbology. There's just not enough time to do that in the course, but I will be bringing them in so that you're getting what you need during the course. So even from 3 feet away, when you see an eye like this, you will see some key things. You'll notice that there's white blobs coming around the edge. You'll notice that there's a lot of white and some other colors right in here. And you would see that just looking at the person. This white would stand out brightly with all of these white fibers, and you would see this bright red blood vessel here. And so instantly, because with iridology, you understand what all of those mean, you start creating that mental list of questions to ask her. Now, as we look at this is one of our little touches into sclerology. We would be starting to think, I need to ask about thyroid, throat, bronchial, so that up high chest, neck region area. And we also in this iris see lots of indication that she might be prone to spider veins and varicose veins or blood pressure issues. And so there again, even with iridology, or with iridology and sclerology, we hit on this ring on the outside of these blobs, the white stuff here, the bright red blood vessel. We've hit on 3 key points right there. Just as we were shaking her hand and welcoming her into the clinic. It's pretty amazing. We never ever want to discuss everything we see in the eyes in one session. It is far too overwhelming. People just can't handle that much, nor should they have to. So we need to start the work with something that will have a direct effect on whatever else it was that the client brought in. So the client might come in saying, I have arthritis, but as we look at the eye, we see that there's really a stomach problem, and we know that if we settle the stomach problem, we'll balance out the acid, and that will help to reduce the arthritic symptoms. So we always want to start with something for this, in that case for the stomach, but give a little something for the arthritis as well, so that they know they've been heard, but they also understand that we are working at a deeper level. And so if you're getting excited about the iridology stuff, again, that website is iridology.education/confident nutritionist if you're thinking of joining me for the class. So what's included in the class? Yeah, you'd like to know that before you commit, right? 20 sessions, live webinars, approximately 40 hours of training. Every class session is divided into lots of little subtopics, and each subtopic is individually recorded and stored on a website. So you get the live instruction, and then you can go back to the website and review those video snippets as often as you want to for up to 18 months to make sure you've got the information solid. You will receive a digital textbook that will come to be available on the website for download in weekly installments. And the format of the classes is each class starts with a review of what we covered the previous week. Then we introduce new material, and then we practice new material. And when we practice the new material, we also go all the way back and we practice everything we've covered so far. So every week we are building on what we have learned in all of the previous weeks, because you're going to see eyes that are very involved, and you're going to need to know how to do that. Because I have thousands of different iRide slides from my clients, we will be practicing, virtual practicing, on people of all ages with all kinds of health histories. So what is this course worth? $19.95 Canadian. Now I need to explain that to you because I know we've got some American friends, and I don't know that Americans understand exchange rates on money the way Canadians do, just because we're always having to do transactions in American dollars when we buy stuff across the border. And so what this means is, with $19.95 being Canadian, the American dollar is trading about 30% stronger than our dollar is. So when you pay for your course and you use your credit card, the credit card company is going to convert this to American dollars, and so the price that you are charged will be about 30% less than this. That is such a sweet deal. So it's going to be about $1,400 US with the way the dollar is trading right now. So you can pop on over to iridology.education/confident nutritionist, but just hang on for just a half a second here, okay, with me? Because when you see an eye, a little more iridology and then a few more technical details here. When you see an eye like this, so you're shaking this person's hand, you're welcoming them into your office, you think, wow, there's a lot of blood vessels, there's a lot of marks in that eye. Where do I begin? You do it just like you do everything else. You start making a list, and you're going to make a list of the sectoral heterochromia that's right here. It's a partial sectoral. You're going to make a note of the orange colors of all of the closed leaf shapes that are in here, the lacunae, and how dark they are. You're going to make a note of the pigments. You're going to make a note that this is a blue eye that has some yellow and some orange coming into it. And you're going to make a note that there are a lot of blood vessels, especially this tangle right here and this piece that's coming up the side. And you're going to make a note of this little yellow blob, and that there's a start of a yellow blob here. That's your base assessment right there. And so then you're going to start talking about their digestion, because this is the nutritive zone and it's got a very dark edge to it. You're probably going to talk to them about how creative they are. What are they doing that's creative? Because when we have this many flower petals in the eye, or these many leaves, the person always has a creative side. It's just a guarantee. And you're going to build from there. When we see a knot or a tangle of blood vessel, of capillary like this, it's an indication that there may be kidney issues of various kinds. Right? So we want to be aware of that. When we've got blood vessels all over throughout the eye, again, it's an indication that there might be a lot of congestion going on and that we need to address those kinds of things with her and help her get her body unblocked. When we see these, it suggests that there is a reduced blood flow to certain parts of the body and that it's compromising body tissues. And sometimes they won't even have symptoms yet. These things start to show up in the eyes, and it can take years for these things to actually manifest themselves in the person's health. So it's just so exciting to be able to do preventive work. And then we have this darling little girl. She's 10 years old, beautiful brown eyes, just gorgeous. And even in her eyes, what we see is we've got some digestive concern, where her digestion is probably not as strong as we'd like it to be. But what really gets my attention, well, the pupil is pretty big too. That kind of goes with some things that we know, that I know about her. She's only 10. Look at all of these blood vessels that are saying inflammation and congestion throughout her body at the tender age of 10. Now, so that's a little bit more of the iridology. Whenever you do a course, especially an online course, there's always bonuses. So let's go over what the bonuses are. First one is you get an IPA student membership. I gift that to you. When I became a certified IPA instructor, I signed a contract that said every one of my students would be gifted with an IPA student membership. We'll talk about why it's important to be a member of IPA as an iridologist in just a few minutes. The Iridology cheat sheet with the questions to ask. Remember, as we've been going along and we've looked at something, we said these are the questions you would ask. So often when we are in the hot seat and we're doing the practitioner thing and we see an indicator in the eye, we go, I know what that is, but what am I supposed to ask them? Well, the cheat sheet has that for you. The cheat sheet ends up being about 12 to 15 pages of notes that I compile for you based on our classes, and it's worth about $149. It's pretty much an iridology class in point form in and of itself. We have a private Facebook group just for my confident nutritionist students and alumni that has a value of $247. It allows you to ask questions. If you've got a way of getting iris photos, you can post photos on the Facebook page for people to talk about and to evaluate with you. Lots of opportunity for give and take and lots of great information with that. Monthly student-driven coaching webinar that is recorded and posted to the site. It's worth about $500. So every month we do a webinar like this one. The big difference is that students submit cases that they want a really thorough evaluation on. So they might submit them as photos, or they might submit them as a written description of eyes that they'd seen with case studies of what the person's health concerns were and what their nutrition was like. And then using that iris information and everything we've got, we spend about an hour to an hour and a half discussing these cases. You also have the option of taking the IPA exam preparation one-day review. This is a face-to-face held here in Calgary where I live, one day where we spend the time looking in real people's eyes. We get people to come in and they just sit there for an hour or two while people look in their eyes and do analyses with them and tell them all kinds of stuff. So that intense one-day exam prep and review is worth $299, but you get it for free when you're in my class. IPA requires you to do 10 iris analyses to get your certification, and we will do these in the last half of our program. So somewhere after week 10, I start feeding these out to you based on how ready I think you are, so that you've got time to do 1 or 2 a week and get them back to me. IPA also requires a complete case study, and we do that also towards the very end of the course. And another bonus, you get a certificate of attendance when you've attended 80% of the classes. Even if you don't do the exam, you get a certificate of attendance. You can't call yourself a certified iridologist, but you can at least say you've got iridology training. And we have the website again to register at. So what's the tuition again? We said $19.95, and that is the tuition, but there is an early bird fast action promotion. So if you register before midnight Mountain Standard Time this Friday, so you've got a few days, but not too long, you can register for $16.95 Canadian. Now, if you're in the States, knock about 30% off for the exchange rate. And so you save $300 by registering 2 months before the class starts. And you get a few bonuses with this. Because once you have registered, I will add you to the Iridology Education Facebook group, and you can start hanging out with us and start learning by osmosis. Hang out with us, hear the chatter, participate in the chatter, and so that's great. It's a small but enthusiastic group. We have a lot of fun, and it's a great way to start getting your feet wet. Now you might ask, why would I give a discount like this? And it's just because I think that if you're ready and you want to move, you want to get committed so that you know this is going to happen. We also have a for-pay option. If you think, well, yeah, I want to do the class, but I don't have $16.95 sitting in my hip pocket, you can do it as 4 $5.97 payments. And so that is a way that makes it much more doable for a lot of clients, a lot of students rather. A lot of people do like the for-pay. And again, you know where to register at, right? Iridology.education, Confident Nutritionist. So why should you consider, and why is it important for you to have an IPA certification and to be a member of IPA? This is important because it gives you that professional, internationally recognized affiliation, right? So often clients like to see that. It's great that you know iridology, but they really want to know that you really know it. And when you can say you're a member of a professional organization, that you've passed the tests, it carries weight with them. Being with IPA gives you the opportunity to keep up to date on the latest iridology research. They just did a summit just over the summer where it was like 30 hours. You didn't have to listen to all of it. 30 different presenters presenting all kinds of health information and iridology information and fabulous, fabulous stuff. The more of us that are certified, the more energy we have in helping iridology to become recognized worldwide. And that's important. It is moving that way very slowly. We need more people to help us create this strong wave of influence. And again, it's to demonstrate also to your clients that you've been properly trained in the most current, valid, and accurate iridology assessment techniques available. Iridology is an emerging science. And if any of you have iridology training already and you've been practicing for 30 years and you've never taken another course since you were certified, I want to tell you, you're missing a lot. There has been so much research go on. The information is so different now from what I learned when I started studying this 35 years ago. It's changed dramatically because the research techniques are so much more effective and efficient. So if you want to be up to date, you want to be a part of IPA. And of course, you can also take the IPA certification exam. It's $175 US, that gets paid to IPA, not to me. You can take the test here the day after the one-day intensive review that we do, the live face-to-face. Or if you want, you can find a local mentor. There's a protocol where you can take it locally, have a local mentor, and the local mentor receives the test papers, supervises you while you do your exam, takes the test papers back when you're finished and mails them in for you. So there is a protocol for that if you don't want to come and see how beautiful Calgary is in the summertime. So it is time to get registered. You want to go to iridology.education, Confident Nutritionist. Do it quick to get that $300 discount because it will be disappearing at midnight on Friday. Yeah, I'm going to be up at midnight changing my website. So just so that you know. So are there any questions about iridology, about anything we've covered tonight, about the course that you would like to have answered? If you've got a question, you can just raise your hand and I can unmute your line if you've got a microphone, and you can just speak your question rather than typing it. There we go. Are the sessions weekly for 20 weeks? They are approximately weekly. And I say that because going 20 weeks straight is a hard thing to do. So you get 2 or 3 weeks off, like 1 week at a time scattered throughout. So the program will start on January 11th and it will end early to mid-June. The other thing that determines how many weeks it takes is if we have a large class, and I don't let them get any bigger than about 20, but if we have more than 10 people in the class, I find that it often takes an extra week or two to cover all the material and make sure everybody gets the attention they need so that they're confident enough to pass the exam. If it's a smaller group, for sure anything 5 and less, then we get done easily in the 20 weeks with lots of practice time. And if you have to miss a week, again, don't worry about it because all of the content is in the textbook and in the video snippets. Every piece of content is in the video snippets on the website. So heaven forbid you're in bed with a deathly flu and you can't even lift your head off the pillow and you're thinking, but I need to be in iridology class. No, you don't. You need to be getting well. And as you're stronger and, maybe 2 days later you can lift your head off the pillow and you can get your laptop on or your tablet on your bed, you can watch the videos and be relearning it. And then remember that the very next class, we always start with a review so that if you've missed a session and you've had to kind of do the homework on your own, the very next class you come into, I basically reteach the information in a condensed version. So yeah, you're going to get the information. So if your concern was that, well, what if you have to miss a week? You don't need to worry about that. I've got you covered. If you're thinking 20 weeks is a long haul, it is. It is. But you'll make it because it's new material every week and it gets so exciting to be learning all of that. Great question, Lori. Any other questions? Okay, I don't think I'm seeing anything. If you're furiously typing, raise your hand so I can wait for you. All right, I think that's it for tonight. Well, I look forward so much to having you in the next go-round of Confident Nutritionist, Integrated Constitutional Iridology, and I look forward to getting to know you better in that class. Have a fabulous evening, everyone. Good night.